Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Now today we are out riding on the Kawasaki ZZR1400 with first time officially on camera, the soon to be wife, and in today's video we're going to go over pillion riding. Let's get to it. Alright guys, so we're just about to get on the bike, but first there are a few things that you're going to want to either discuss with your riding buddy or just try and get a few things straight. Now of course the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure the foot pegs are down. I mean, I know that sounds obvious, but you don't want a pillion rider thinking that they have to stand on your exhaust or something like that to get on the bike. So the thing that I would recommend is actually first of all getting to know the person that's going to jump on the bike with you. I understand that, guys like to score chicks out on the town and stuff like that on a motorcycle. It isn't the best thing to do because they more than likely aren't going to know what to do in the first place, and they're going to be nervous and all that stuff. Even if they're a bit gung-ho, they might be a bit stupid and it could end up causing a crash. So there's a few things here that you're going to want to look out for. The first of which is getting to know the person, or how well you know the pillion rider or the person that's going to be riding pillion with you. Also equipment. Now here the wife to be is wearing basically everything, so she's got the boots on, the gloves, jacket, helmet. Helmet's probably the most important thing. Never ever let a pillion ride without a helmet. Now, in the US, in some states, I understand that you don't have to wear helmets and what have you. It doesn't matter. You, as the rider, are responsible for the pillion's safety. So make sure that they're wearing all the protective equipment possible before they get on the bike. One other thing here is the weight. Now this bike is quite heavy as it is. I can't remember exactly. It's something like 300 to 400 kilograms wet. So it is quite a heavy bike. And then you add my weight, which is 80k, and the wife's weight, which is 65k. It makes a big difference. And not to mention that the entire weight is going to be on the back seat. So it's not going to be center mass on the motorcycle. It does really change the way how you should be riding. Honestly, if you've never ridden with a pillion before, it's quite a different experience, and you'll get that straight away. You'll start feeling the weight of the bike. You'll start feeling the balance a bit more. You certainly have to concentrate a little bit more. Anyway, right, let's talk to the wife and let's see what things, because she has more experience than I do riding pillion. So let's talk about some of the things that she would recommend before actually getting on the bike.
So in addition to making sure you have the right equipment, I would make sure that before you get on the bike, the rider's actually ready for you. There's nothing worse than trying to get on a bike when someone's not ready, if their feet aren't on the floor and the bike goes, you're going to take you both with you, and you're not even moving at that point, but it's still going to hurt if you fall over. Oh,
it will, especially on a big bike like this, for sure. You don't want it landing on top of you.
Yeah. In addition, I would say that, obviously we use intercoms. If you don't use intercoms, I would suggest that you have some sort of hand signal. So if the pillion wants to stop, they just tap you maybe on your shoulder. Yeah. Or if maybe the rider's not happy with something, they'll tap you on the leg to say, move forward, move back, something like that. Get some sort of system going. Yeah. So you've got the constant communication, because that's so vital when it's something like this that you're trying to keep up between you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, again, it all goes back to preparation. You can't just get onto a motorcycle with a pillion. It's just, well, for one, the riding experience is going to be poor, either for you as the rider or the pillion rider. The pillion rider's experience is going to be poor, and it just adds to the safety. So yeah, I think intercoms are really important. We've always had intercoms when we've been riding. We've never ever ridden without intercoms, and they are so useful. They're not even that expensive either. I mean, of course, if you buy some that are branded BMW or what have you, or maybe those helmets that have got intercoms built into them, you don't have to buy those. We've just got really cheap intercoms and they work absolutely fine. They're battery operated. You put the microphone into your helmet, and the earpieces, you just put them into where your ears go inside the helmet, and then you're pretty much good to go. So just a nice cheap pair of intercoms will go a long way with communication, as you said. All right, shall we get on the bike?
Let's do it.
Let's go for a ride. Alrighty. Now, which side do you like to jump on?
I like to get on the left. It's always the way that I've done it. It's the most comfortable for me. I am left-handed, left-footed, maybe that's what it is for me. So,
well, and I was going to say, for the rider themselves as well, you've got the rear brake here. You can hold on to the rear brake whilst they're getting on. Now, you should have your hands on the handlebars anyway, so you can hold on to the front brake, but it just gives you that little bit of a safety buffer as well. Sorry, carry on.
So with most bikes, when I get on, I mean, are you ready for me to get on?
I am ready.
Yep, perfect. Normally, if the bike is a bit thinner, I can swing my leg the whole way over. However, for this bike, I do have to make a quick pit stop. So what I do is I put my hand on the rider, my hand on the back there, so I've got some support. I put my left foot up, stop, over, and then my right hand goes behind, and my left hand holds onto the rider. Now this is just my preferred way of sitting. With bikes that have the handles both sides, I tend to hold that, but with a hand at the back, I like one hand behind, one hand in front, and I'm good to go.
Cool. So yeah, of course, you can have both your hands either holding onto the rider. For those of you that haven't got much experience riding Pillion, that might be a more comforting way to ride. The one problem that I find with that is just the helmets bumping together.
Yes.
You know, if you're squeezing hold of the rider, then yeah, it's going to be it's just annoying when the helmets smash together.
It's not pleasant for anyone involved, and it can cause the rider a little bit of a shock if they're not expecting it.
Exactly. Honestly, anyone that's ridden Pillion, you guys know exactly what I mean.
Yes.
All right, so it's a little bit later on in the day, as we had a little bit of a problem with a couple of the cameras. We had a GoPro Hero session here that busted somehow. The firmware, or what have you, it had just frozen, it crashed, and also the camera that we had on the wifey's helmet was kind of at the wrong angle, unfortunately. So we've come back out a little bit later on to redo this segment of the video. All right, so what we're going to do, we're about to jump onto the bike, we're going to ride away, and as we ride, we're going to talk a little bit more about what to do, how it feels from a rider's perspective and from the Pillion rider's perspective, and yeah, hopefully you guys can get a few tips from that. All right, should we ride? Should we get on?
Ride.
All right. Right. Okay, have you got your sun visor down, yeah?
I have indeed.
Perfect.
Been down the whole time.
All right, so we've just turned on the bike. Now for me, it's always a good idea to let the Pillion know that you're about to take off, just in case they're still getting themselves comfortable, they're still, kind of organising their grip, what they're going to hold on to, whether they're going to hold on to you as the rider, or if they're going to hold on to the Pillion handles, if the bike has Pillion handles, not all do, of course. So let's do that now. Are you ready?
I'm ready to go.
Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
All right. I can see your visor steaming up a bit there.
It is. I might just lift it a bit.
Open it up for now.
There we go.
Little things like that. Good little tips for them. All right. Let's go.
So talking about grips, my right hand is on the grip behind me, and my left hand, it either sits on my knee or around the rider's waist. It does depend on what bike you ride and your Pillion on, which depends on which grip you might use. For instance, you might like to use, if there's side grips, you might want to hold on to both of those. It can be a lot of it will come with confidence. I know when I first started as a Pillion, I held on to the rider like my life depended on it. And then as I got more confident, I could sit back, have one hand on the grip, or both hands on the grips, and leave the rider well alone.
Yeah, because obviously, I mean, the rider is the one controlling the motorcycle, so
that's it.
You want to try and give them as much room as possible. Try and make sure they're as comfortable as possible. But yeah, like we said, it kind of goes both ways. You are responsible for the Pillion's safety, so they also have to be comfortable.
If you do elect to hold on to the rider, don't squeeze. They don't need that sharp shock of you holding on and gripping on, because they're holding up a machine that weighs quite a lot. I mean, well, they just stay upright.
Yeah, and that's a point that we're going to move on to in a little while, is about the added weight that the Pillion add to the motorcycle, because yeah, it can change the dynamics completely of how the bike handles. But we'll move on to that in a second. Trying to stick to the point the wife made just now about the grip. If you are going to hold on to the rider, then don't try and grip too hard, because you don't want to give them a bear hug, you know. Then they'll start suffocating. Yeah, you don't want to do that. But most riders are more than happy to let you hold on to them if you're a little bit nervous, or you know, if you haven't done this before and you're trying to get your bearings, trying to understand how it all works. I'm sure they won't mind. So wife, how are you feeling right now on the big ZZR1400?
It's very comfortable.
Yeah?
It's really comfy. Sounds really silly, but it's a really soft seat.
Yeah.
I've been on the Pillion on the 1000, and that was like sitting on a rock.
Yeah.
And I could only sit on it for about 10 minutes before I thought I need to get off. I'm gonna go numb.
Just to give a little bit more context there, the 1000 that she's referring to is a Kawasaki 1000 SX. It was one of the bikes that I considered buying before I'd kind of looked at buying this one. And yeah, I think we made the right choice for comfort-wise. Yeah, the stock seats are quite uncomfortable. They're hard seats. They're not, you know, they're not soft seats. So it is a little bit more difficult to tour with. And the 1000 SX, of course, is a touring motorcycle. So you'd have thought that it would be more comfortable than this, but no. This bike is insanely comfortable. Yeah, you can just cruise on this thing all day. And starting to move on to talk about the comfort of the Pillion rider. It's important that they're comfortable, otherwise they might make some silly mistakes. They might do something that is that you're not expecting, so they might shift their weight on the bike to a different point, you know, mid-turn or something. That's always a bit of a shock to the system for the rider. But don't ride like a maniac, I think, is the main thing. Let them get a little bit of confidence in how the bike feels. Show them a little bit of the power. Don't blast them straight away if they're not confident, or if they're a bit uncomfortable or a bit unhappy to begin with. Because at the end of the day, you are responsible for their safety. As a rider, their safety is more important than yours, because you're in control of the vehicle. So, you know, right now we're just cruising. And to be fair, I think if we are traveling, if we are touring on this bike, I'm not going mad, am I?
No, never.
Because sometimes it's just nice to enjoy the ride and enjoy the company. But right, let's talk about the weight, the added weight. The wife here, she weighs about 65 kilograms. I weigh 80. The maximum weight of this bike is around 200 kilograms, something like that. However, I'm sure that they could take a lot more than that, but that's just recommended in the user manual. But it's a good little guideline to stick to. The thing is that you'll notice straight away, if you haven't taken anyone as a Pillion before on the back of your bike, it really does change the way how the bike handles. Now the ZZR is heavy enough as it is. It's something like 300 to 400 kilograms. So she is a heavy bike. What's that, 500-600 pounds? I can't quite remember. Don't quote me on that. If you want to know more, you can check out our review of the ZZR. I'll pop the link up there in the top corner for you. I've got all the specs and everything up there. That was a couple of months ago since we did that video. So But yeah, the control of the bike completely changes. Like the way how the handling in a turn changes quite significantly, and it is something you're going to have to get used to. Now, of course, if you are riding a lighter bike to begin with, then maybe this issue won't be as prevalent or as noticeable. Because I remember when we're on the 125, the wife's 125, that bike is really good to throw around into the corners because it's so lightweight. But if she decides to ride Pillion on that bike with me, it's so easy. You can treat it almost exactly the same way as if you were riding on your own on it. But of course, that's the 125. It's designed to be forgiving. It's designed for beginner riders, so of course it's going to be easy. But you start getting into the heavyweight classes, it does make an awful difference. And especially because the weight is shifted to the back end of the bike. So, because of course the center mass is no longer where the engine is. Like where I'm sitting right now, I'm on top of the engine, so that's where the center of mass is, so it's more predictable. However, when you put on a Pillion, the weight shifts further back, which is what adds to the difficulty in the handling, especially at slow speeds. Doing cruising speeds like this is a breeze, it's no problem at all. But if you're doing start-stop traffic, or if you're traveling on a slow road and you're having to do some sharp turns and things, it can be a bit more challenging. So something to keep, just to keep in mind for you riders, if you're taking any Pillions out with you, is just be aware of how the bike handles. Things like braking distances will increase, and you're probably going to want to increase the size of your turning circles, because normally a tipping point of a motorcycle is X, but then the tipping point of a motorcycle with a Pillion is Y. It's a completely different metric, and it doesn't take much for the bike to go one side or another with a Pillion on, and then it will drop. So you have to really, really keep an eye out for that at your slow speeds. Another little tip is, I would not recommend having a Pillion on the back that is heavier than you. And I'm sure there are loads of riders out there that have got brothers, sisters, and what have you, that are older than them, that are heavier than them, and they take them on the back of their bikes as Pillion. Fine, that's no problem. I'm sure you guys are used to it. But again, it just shifts more of that weight to the back end of the bike, away from the center mass. So it will make the ride significantly more difficult for you. So the lighter you are, the heavier they are, the more complicated it gets for you as the rider. But like I said, once you get to cruising speed, you get to 20-30 miles an hour or so, or over, it is easy. It's really straightforward. Alright, the wife. Do you have any tips whilst we're riding? For those of you that are riding Pillion, or if you're new to riding Pillion.
Did you ask a question? Sorry.
I did.
I didn't hear, it's very loud back here.
Oh, okay. So all I said is, do you have any tips for Pillion? For
Yes.
Pillion riders, for new Pillion riders, as you're out and about, as you're riding?
Yes, so many tips. I think the first one is going to be, let me pick. If you need to move, wait until the bike is stopped at a traffic lights or what have you, or ask the rider to pull over with a signal or your intercom, whatever you have organised, and let them know you need to move. The worst thing to do is try and move when they're not expecting it. If you move left and they're trying to go right, X and Y, it's all the same, X and Y. If they don't gel together, it's not going to work. So, as we've already said, communication is a huge part of it. So whether it be a tap on the shoulder to say, you know, can you pull over, or whether it's you got your intercoms in, yeah, just be aware that the rider's holding you, themselves and the bike up.
To be fair, right now as we're moving, you can move on the bike. It's only in a turn that you might not want to, but at cruising speeds, you can move about if you want. So if you want to shuffle yourself back a little bit, you'll be fine. The rider won't feel it. If you want to try it, move yourself a little bit further back. There you go. No problem. Didn't feel it at all. Didn't feel it in the steering or anything like that. So pillion riders can move on the back seat with ease, and the rider won't necessarily need to worry so much about it if you're going at cruising speeds. Sorry, what was the next tip that you had?
I moved back just then. I went over a bump, I fell forward again. The next tip I would say is don't get on the bike scared that you're going to come off. It's the worst thing to do because you will be tense, your body will be stiff, and you won't roll with the turns. If the rider moves one way, go with it. You need to really mirror what the rider is doing. And by the same token, if you do happen to come off the bike to have a crash or to fall or what have you, roll with the bike. Go with it. Don't try and hold the bike out. Don't try and correct it. Just go with it.
Yeah, and the same thing goes for the rider as well, the rider themselves. If the bike is falling, don't hold on to the bike. Let go of the bike, try and jump off. Same thing with the pillion as well. You have to try and let go of the rider and just fall. Just fall, just go with it. Because if you think about it, if you're holding onto the bike, you are traveling with the same mass as the bike. So the impact that you have is going to be heavier, it's going to be a harder impact, whereas if you jump off the bike you just have your own body weight to worry about. So that's one thing that you want to keep in mind. If God forbid if the bike ever falls, or you have to try an emergency brake but you haven't got enough there, drop the bike, jump off. It's better than crashing into the back of a car or into some obstacle with both of you on the bike adding to the mass. Having said that, doing emergency braking is really difficult with a pillion, and funnily enough it's not something that they actually teach you on your full riding license, which is kind of a bit stupid because it really does change the handling of the bike. So I'm not sure why they don't teach it to you. Well, there you go, that's something that you'll have to keep in mind. Yeah, you're constantly having to adjust your handling, the way your feet are planted on the floor at slow maneuvers. I mean, look, I'm at 40 miles an hour now and it's no problem, but stopping at that red light and then pulling away at that red light, it's a lot more difficult with a pillion rider. Yeah, riding pillion is fun, however, and it was something I was looking forward to as well. When I passed my full riding license, I was looking forward to taking people like my brother on the back of the bike. So it was something I was looking forward to, but I quickly realised that it might be a fun experience with the pillion, but it might be a bit boring for you as the rider because you can't throw the bike around as much. You know, and because you have to be considerate of the pillion, you can't pin the throttle back or anything like that, or if you are going to do that you have to let them know beforehand, which is a bit of a pain, you know. I mean, if you, because you're going to want to redline it every once in a while, you know. It's a motorcycle, but with a pillion with a pillion you can't do that. Do you have any more tips?
More tips?
Yeah.
I think something that a lot of people don't understand or don't realise as a pillion is your gear is so important. It's not just the case of it's keeping me safe, it's also got to keep you warm.
Oh yeah.
gonna feel it. You might have a rider in front of you that does shield some of the cold, but you do get cold, and when that rain comes down, it's not nice. So definitely, if you're gonna be a regular pillion, make sure you've got a good helmet that's comfortable, you've got a jacket, you've got thick gloves, and you've got suitable footwear as well. You know, you don't want, if you do come off, you don't want your ankles to get damaged. So I would say gear is such a thing. Yes, it is. It can be expensive. It is a financial cost for you, but it's also your life that you take in your hands if you did come off and didn't wear it.
Exactly, but the one thing to remember is the rider is responsible for your safety. That also includes the gear that you wear. So don't let them turn around and say to you, oh, don't worry, you don't need boots, you don't need gloves, you don't need a jacket, you don't need a helmet. You do. Certainly a helmet, you certainly need one of those. And I know that in some states in America you don't have to wear helmets, I believe. Please correct me, any of our American cousins, feel free to correct me there in the comments. But if you are taking someone on the back of your motorcycle, you have to make sure they're wearing protective gear. It's vitally important. And look, you might ride and there might not be any problems, but that's the thing, you don't wear protective gear, you know, just to wear it. You wear it on that one-off occasion where you need it, where you come off the bike, where you have a crash. That's when you're going to need it.
It's funny that you were saying earlier about people picking up chicks on their bikes. It's true, they're an attractive feature. A lot of, I feel, speaking as a woman, I'm just going to put this bold statement out there, women who don't ride and maybe aren't riders and seasoned pillions don't want to wear a helmet, and they don't want to wear gloves because of their hair and their makeup and their acrylic nails. I have all of that, and I managed to ride safely and comfortably with my gloves on and my helmet on. It's okay, helmets, they're not sexy, I get it. They don't always make you look attractive. Mine makes me look like I've got a bulb on my head because it's huge. But I'd rather have my helmet on, have a little bit of helmet hair than break my neck.
Precisely.
I would say one big tip to people with long hair, tie it up. The amount of times I've been trying to get hair out my mouth because I've forgotten to tie it up, and today is no exception. I've forgotten to tie my hair up.
Yeah, and I think that goes for guys as well. If you guys have got long hair,
yeah,
tie it up. It does make a difference. I'm not speaking from experience. I've never had long hair, but I might have long hair soon. Yeah, I'm currently growing my hair, so we'll see how that goes. Going back to safety and you know, wearing all the gear and stuff like that, I mentioned earlier about your mum and dad, because obviously they ride themselves.
yes.
So your dad rides and your mum rides Pillion, and they've had a couple of accidents during their riding careers. So do you want to talk about their latest experience?
Yes, yeah, so my parents are seasoned riders. My dad always jokes that he's had his license so long he just had to turn up and they gave it to him. So they have a BMW sports tourer, is that right?
I think, well, it's a 1250, it's a GS 1250 or 1200, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure.
Yeah, and they like to do touring holidays now, so they either hire a bike or they take their own bike out. So they took their bike over to Europe, and they were on the first day of their journey. They're in France, and it'd been raining. It wasn't raining anymore, but it had been raining. And as they left the exit to go around the roundabout, the back wheel slipped out, and it threw my parents off the bike. They were going 7 miles an hour, so bear this in mind when I move on to the next bit. They were wearing airbags which plug into the bike, and when you're thrown at a certain speed, they inflate and they're meant to protect you. Sound great? So my mum was thrown at such a speed off the bike that her jacket inflated, but the bike landed on her trips. Kind of ruined the holiday for them, you might say.
Yeah, I bet. And it's not a good impression of those airbag jackets.
No.
You know, I mean, remember, they would have both been going at the exact same speed, so why your dad's didn't go off but your mum's did? That is a bit odd. And of course, these jackets are supposed to protect your neck more than anything else from whipping and stuff like that. So they can serve a purpose, but honestly, I'm not encouraged by that at all. And as well, in the first take that we did, I mentioned how I just prefer Kevlar jackets. They'll protect you well enough. They're not going to protect your neck, but they will protect you enough. And again, there are certain things that you can do to protect your neck, like if you wear a hoodie, yes, it's going to be warmer, but that braces your neck anyway. So there are certain things that you can do to help protect yourself just that little bit more.
Just as a caveat to my what sounds like a horrific story, they are both fine, and my mum is still riding as Pillion because she got back up and went, I'm not going to let this defeat me.
Yeah.
So,
well, then the first accident they had, well, when was that? Back in the 90s or something?
the 60s.
No,
60s or 70s.
No, it would be the 60s.
That's true.
It would be the 70s or 80s. They're not that old.
It was on that honeymoon, they slipped on oil.
Yeah. And after that experience, your mum didn't ride for how long? 20 years?
So she was probably got back on the bike when I was about 22, 23.
Yeah.
And that was probably 30 years after it happened.
Yeah. So that definitely damaged her confidence.
Yes, for sure.
But it's good that they're back out riding together. Whoa.
Sorry.
You see that? You moved your weight then.
I know, so I literally just moved my leg.
Yeah. But even something like that can significantly change the way how the bike handles. So things like that you shouldn't do, especially at slow speeds. So I don't know what I was doing then. Maybe 5 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour. I'm not sure, but yeah, I had to turn the steering to keep balance at that point. Alright, I don't think I have anything more to say from a rider's perspective about what they should do, you know, to accommodate the Pillion rider. You will have to change your riding style, especially at the slow speeds, as I mentioned. You're going to have to make micro adjustments that you probably wouldn't normally make if you're riding on your own. But of course, the only way to experience it is to do it. Is to, you know, grab your girlfriend or your brother or sister, take them out on your bike, and then you get an opportunity to practice. So, and it is enjoyable. Yes, you're not going to get the maximum performance or the maximum handling out of the motorcycle, of course you're not. But having company is always fun on the bike. And if you have someone that enjoys riding as much as you do, then that's all the better. There's one touchy subject here, and that is for you, wife. What do you prefer, riding your own motorcycle or being a Pillion?
Oh, absolutely riding my own.
Of course.
Absolutely. I think personally, riding as a Pillion was amazing. It's been an amazing experience, and it's one I want to continue doing, especially, you know, if we decide to go on long trips, and it's better to take one bike instead of two, or a car, or what have you, because it's really made me aware of what the rider has to contend with and what they have to concentrate on. For myself, I was a Pillion before I even had my driving licence. As you guys probably know, I had my driving licence quite late in my life, in my late 20s. And it's actually made me really aware of other riders on the road when I'm in a car. I do think when you're a Pillion, you become more in tune with and more road aware of what riders need and what space they might need on the road. And you know, I'm forever checking if there's one in my rear view mirror as to where they are, and I like to know where they are until they've either overtaken me or turned off. And I think that's something that
one last thing that I was meant to say in the first take but completely forgot about it is your tyre pressures. You will have to increase your tyre pressures ever so slightly when you're taking a Pillion, at least if you want to preserve your tyres for, you know, make them last a little bit longer. Of course, if you're touring all the time, then you probably don't need to worry about that, but for the most part, I'm not riding with a Pillion. I'm riding by myself, so it doesn't really apply to me all that much. And well, this is the first time, well, today is the first time we've been out Pillion riding together in how long?
About a year?
Yeah, a long time. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Your tyres will wear a little bit more if you don't keep up that tyre pressure. But obviously, like I said, if you're not taking Pillions on the back all that much, then you probably don't need to worry about that too much. Anyway, I think that'll do for this video, guys and gals. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope that you've learned a few things in this video. And I did originally want the camera to be showing the wife's perspective as a Pillion, but unfortunately we haven't got, well, we're down one camera, as I mentioned earlier. You may move.
Thank you.
So yeah, I've forgotten my train of thought. Oh yeah, the camera. Yeah, so we've got the camera that the wife was wearing just up the front for today. It's a different camera to the GoPro that I usually use. I'm hoping to get another GoPro in the near future, so hopefully these types of videos will be a little bit better. But anyway guys, thank you ever so much for watching. Big shout out to all of you subscribers out there and all of you that have engaged with the videos, given feedback, like, disliked. I really appreciate your engagement, your feedback. So thank you very much for that. For those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. I hope you've enjoyed the video. But of course, as always, make sure to like, share and subscribe if you enjoy our content. It really helps us out a lot. So yeah, thanks again for watching. Hope you're all having an amazing time at the moment in the summer, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. And yeah, as always, ride safe, ride hard. We'll see you all in the next video. Do you have anything more you want to say?
Nope.
Nope.